Alright, so guys, we need to talk about the big problem that came with 3.24, and it is this little thing here, call trump support. So they removed call trumps from the tree, so it doesn't exist anymore. Like, it has a completely different function than what we used to know. And it is a gigantic problem for Melee, and I'll explain why. So call trumps here triggers your war cries, you lose some CDR, and you cannot use them yourself. Now, the biggest problem with this gem is this line here. Cost and reservation multiplier to 100%. Call to Arms, right now, costs like 19 mana, which means that with the Call to Arms support, it will cost 38 mana. And then say you have one Elrion that says that that's 31. You barely have enough mana to trigger it once with one Elrion craft. If I don't have any Elrion craft, say because I don't have it, or I'm using 2 unique rings maybe, then suddenly you cannot even trigger it at all. So now, if you want to fit Call to Arms and keep using and doing Ancestral Cry, for example, on your character, then you would need to life tap it. Now, to life tap it, you need 2 sockets. I mean, an extra socket, sorry. Well, 2 extra sockets. One for the life tap that you're gonna need to, well, just be able to trigger it, and one for the Call to Arms itself, support. So, where do we get these sockets? The answer is, we can't. Because we already need to life tap our cast and damage taken, but we don't have sockets for that. We have our 6 link, we have our mobilities and all stuff, like all our totems that also take sockets, and all our auras, and whatever other utility skills that we actually need to have, like Blood Rage, for example, you need it. Frostbeam, that's your movement, you need it. Auras, totems, again, that are mandatory. So currently, with the way Melee works, with having like totems being mandatory, there's no way to solve that socket pressure. If totems were not needed, if ancestral totems were not a thing, and you did not need them to make your damage playable, because that's what the totems do, they make your damage playable. They don't make your damage good, they make your damage playable. So if that was not the case, then yeah, we would have sockets to do that. But as is, there are no sockets that you could spare. Now you'll say, oh, but you can use unset rings. Well, if you use unset rings, suddenly, well, first of all, you cannot use unique rings. Second of all, your stats are completely bricked. You don't have enough res, you don't have enough accuracy. Melee in general is very suffix hungry, because you need accuracy, so you can use PT, so you can have damage. You need suppression on every single piece of gear. You need to want suppression on every single piece of gear, otherwise you're not suppression capped. So these are also suffixes that are gone. I would say in general you would need 2 good accuracy suffixes and suppression on every single piece of gear to be able to, you know, have a well-rounded character that has all the defense required and enough damage. And that means that the suffixes on your rings are extremely important to be able to cap your res, for example. Like in this case, for example, like my chaos res, all my chaos res comes from my rings, all of it. If I lose my rings, I lose all my chaos res. This character is not even capped. And then there's also the part with elemental res, again, losing suffixes because you wanna make up for the res that you lose on rings, for example, makes it so that, you know, your res just simply does not work. So unset rings are not even a solution at all. Early game is even worse once you actually need life taps, because early game you would need life tap on everything, absolutely everything. You cast from damage taken, because again, cast from damage taken has the same problem Call to Arms support will have, which is a huge mana multiplier, which forces you to lose life tap. There's no point in the game where you can use cast from damage taken without life tap, no matter what. Even if you have triple rounds, you still cannot use cast from damage taken without life tap, and that is a huge problem. So I really hope that something has to be done, like whether it is make sure the totems are not needed, or actually the best solution that I can think of personally is do something with blood magic. Like blood magic right now is pretty much unusable. Like your skills reserving life instead of mana means that you can use auras, and it is completely unthinkable to play the game without auras now in current PoE. So blood magic is completely useless. And when it could just be, for example, EB's counterpart for bottom side of the tree. Like EB right now has a very small downside with like less energy shield recharge rate, which because it cannot be stopped, right? So you can the energy shield recharge when you use EB, that never stops. Now, what I think should happen is that Blood Magic should simply just make skills cost life instead of mana. Maybe add it another multiplier so that it costs more mana, because obviously you have a lot more mana, a lot more life than you have mana or ES yeah. So that would probably be the solution to that. And then you keep your mana, skills cost life instead of mana. The reservation still goes on mana, and maybe increase the costs, the life costs if needed. I'm not sure if that's even needed. But that would be the solution. I think that would fix all the problems, because then you don't need life tap, so you can actually play the game and just suck at new things without having to pretty much life tap everything. But as is, I think this patch with Cold Rams being gone, Cold Rams right now is, like I said, is completely gone. It's just something to support other players, I believe. So unless something is done about the mana problems or the socket problems, Melee will have an extreme battle. I don't even know that I will play Melee next league if nothing is done about this, because there are simply no solutions to the problems we're presented with right now with this change to the left click and introduction to Cold Ram support. Another solution could be maybe to make these supports not have mana multipliers, but again, that's not my call to make. I just think that this is something that should 100% be looked at and dealt with hopefully before the league starts, because otherwise I don't think we're gonna see very many people playing Melee. And yeah, I felt like I had to make this video because during the announcement it mentioned socket problems for minion characters but not for melee characters, even though melee characters have an absurd amount of socket pressure and mana pressure. But coming back to the mana thing, accuracy was supposed to be the limiting factor when it comes to melee, like as opposed to casters, for example, that would have mana to deal with, and not have accuracy to deal with. But like in this case, melee and attack builds in general have to deal with accuracy, and they're also in a part of the tree where they do not get any int. They don't really need ints for anything. They don't need mana for anything, which means, for example, this character at level 100 has 680 mana. Triggering, for example, my curse, cast never mistaken, would cost 35 mana. That is the mana I have right now. So if I were to proc, for example, my curse to cast never mistaken, which by the way is level 2, if you level it further, cannot cast it ever. That would be like, it basically makes the build completely unplayable, because everything will cost way too much mana. Like, for example, the Ancestral Cry, like I mentioned, would cost another... Sorry. Yeah, it would cost like 38 mana, and then let's pretend we have 12 Realms, it is still 24 mana. And every single proc of anything, every single trigger of anything would basically put you in down to an amount of mana that doesn't even allow you to use your other skills. So yeah, I hope this gets looked at the very least. This is a huge problem. I think if this stays like this, I don't think it is worth for anybody to play melee builds in this current state. So yeah, that's all I have to say. And yeah, I hope this gets across. Thank you.